side of Ridgeline Drive, south to West Edgehill Drive. On Edgehill, all the homes on the north side of West Edgehill Drive, they're also under an evacuation. And then all the streets between those two. That order extends to the west to include Beverly Drive, and then the eastern side of that evacuation zone is Circle Drive. So we're looking at dozens of homes contained within that border area.
And sir, I don't know if your TV is on behind you, but we're having a hard time hearing you. You may be outside with lots of fire apparatus happening as well. So in terms of the fight ahead, can you walk us through what you expect for the next few hours?
Yes, and I'm sorry, it's no TV. I'm here at the command post.
Here at the command post, okay, yes. Thank you for doing the best that we all can. Thank you.
So again, our focus always is life safety. To that point, we put in that evacuation order. All of the roads here on Little Mountain, and that's the hillside that we're seeing. All the roads on Little Mountain are relatively narrow, which means if a vehicle is coming down the road, it's hard for a fire engine to come up and vice versa. So those orders are in place to allow the fire apparatus to get in there and really focus their efforts on saving these homes and ultimately creating a perimeter around this vegetation fire and bringing it to them.
And as far as we know, because we are looking at homes that are burning right now, do we believe that everybody's out of these homes?
Fortunately, we have had no reports of injuries. We've had no reports of any trapped subjects. We have over 40 engines, multiple hand crews. We're looking at over 200 firefighters assigned to this incident. This is coming from San Bernardino County, from CAL FIRE, all the way from Riverside City, coming up to assist us in this fight.
Well, that is definitely good news that at least there's no injuries. But we're looking at in terms of structures burned, confirmed. What are we at right now? 2, 3?
It's too early right now. We haven't gotten to the damage assessment portion of this incident. You know, as you can see from overhead, this is quickly evolving. So it's what we can do. You know, we have firefighters that are assigned to perimeter control to try and bring this vegetation fire under control. We have multiple structure defense groups whose sole job is to defend these homes and try and keep this fire from taking homes from residents.
So we'll let you get back to it, but just the most important message for folks that live in this community at this point, would it be, you know, stay out of the neighborhood?
Yes, absolutely. You know, these are full-time residents that live here. We do have a number of them that were away at work. They're going to come home to some road closures and find it difficult to get into their neighborhood. Allow us to do our work, and we'll get you back in your home as quickly as we can. Do so quickly.
Eric Sherwin, thank you so much for your perspective. We hopefully will check back in with you a little bit later on today. Best of luck to you and all the guys that are doing that important work right now. So as we continue to look at pictures from above the scene, it looks like these are some large homes with significant amount of property, and from our perspective, it's hard to tell that it looks like at least 2, maybe 3 homes so far have burned. That's just me trying to judge, you know, from here, although it is tough to tell based off of what he said, which is that this situation is quickly evolving. You can see that particular fire right there. There's basically nothing left of what that structure was, which is so sad. And you can see how this fire has moved up this hill at Little Mountain, and then you see, you know, the ruins of this home that is there. In a moment, we'll bring Jonathan Novak into the conversation. Jonathan, hopefully you can hear us. So talk to us about fire weather, winds. What are we looking at in this neighborhood?
Right before the fire started, there was an uptick in winds. I'm sure no coincidence. The wind gusts, well, they weren't even happening until about 1:30 p.m. And then the winds picked up in San Bernardino about 20-25 miles per hour for the gusts, which is currently what they're experiencing and what they can expect here for tonight. And again, unfortunately, it looks like we're going to repeat that tomorrow. But as we look at checking off the boxes for fire danger, winds are just one of the three ingredients. The other two, of course, are the temperatures, which right now, get this, Alex, folks, it is 109 degrees in San Bernardino. And the relative humidity, which is a function of the temperatures and how hot it is out there, is at 10% right now in San Bernardino, which is extremely dry. And of course, when you have a wind gust of 20, 25, while we've seen much stronger winds than that, much stronger than that, and you know, of course, that's nothing to shake a stick at. That will certainly spread a fire and cause a challenge for firefighters right now and going forward here for the next couple of days. Tomorrow, by the way, should be about as hot as it was today.
You think about that, Jonathan, for these firefighters who are there. That's 109 without this fire.
It's incredible.
And then how hot the fire is, and then they're in all that gear that they're carrying as well. How unbelievably hot it's got to be for them. I mean, that's probably, what, 130, 140 degrees that they must be enduring right now? Yeah,
I would imagine. I mean, it's unbelievable. They're heroes. I mean, they're absolutely courageous to be out there and doing that, fighting these fires for us. You know, this is something that every year, when we have wildfire season, I'm just astounded or astonished, or pick your adjective. I'm just by how amazing of a job they do in these kinds of conditions. And this summer in particular, though, Alex, has been really, really hot. And in fact, we've had maybe a day or two below average in downtown Los Angeles. Every other day since the beginning of the summer has been above average, warmer than normal. And these heat waves, one after another, have been excessive. I mean, 4 or 5 days in a row of 105 to 110 degrees in the Inland Empire. And that's really hot for the IE. I mean, we see that in the high desert. Of course, we see it in Palm Springs, but it's like everything shifted in Palm Springs weather we're experiencing over in the Inland Empire right now.
And we've seen really devastating wildfires in Northern California in the last few months, Jonathan. We have been pretty lucky here in Southern California. We have had some fires, but not a lot where we've seen burning of homes. And, this one, it's a reminder of how quickly this can happen, it seems like this fire just took off and way too fast for firefighters to stop it. But by the time they could get there, these homes are engulfed like that.
Yeah, and this is, unfortunately, this is a pretty well-populated area right there around Little Mountain. It's near Shandon Hills, and there are a lot of homes, as you can see, right there. And the part of the problem is that over the winter, remember all the rain we had, all that rain fed into the vegetation, and so the vegetation grew more than it would normally have, and now, with all the heat, it's been drying out. And so what we've been really fortunate with so far this summer is we haven't had a lot of windy conditions, which will really start picking up going into the end of the summer and into the beginning of the fall when Santa Ana winds kick in. And I'm really nervous about what will occur once those conditions start kicking into high gear. This is kind of an example maybe of hopefully not, but might be what we can expect because of the wind gusts that picked up today. When you got the heat like you have, I mean, it doesn't take much, just a spark, and temperatures like 109 degrees with 10% relative humidity will do it. And then the 20-mile-per-hour wind gust to bring the embers to other areas. You saw that the fire was at the top of the ridge there as well as down in the area where the homes are, and so this fire is spreading pretty quickly and jumping over to other parts of those hills in that area.
And it's a reminder also that, Jonathan, that fires like inclines. They like hills.
Yeah, that's right.
And you can see by all the blackness on this hill sort of the path that this fire took, and how the terrain there really allowed it to move very fast.
Yeah, absolutely. That's and right now, did they say they have 0% containment on this, right? Yeah, they just started. Yeah, I mean, looking ahead to tonight, the temperatures, I mean, the relative humidities, they don't recover well, and that's the problem. If we had a big shift in the weather pattern right now for the next 24 hours or something like that, it would, you know, that would help, but it looks like today's weather will repeat tomorrow, and so the conditions will remain for at least another day, probably until Wednesday to a good degree as well. And at night, you just don't get a break. You don't get any real humidity recoveries, and you don't get any temperature recoveries. And the winds will, while they might die down a bit tonight, will still be somewhat breezy. I mean, the conditions overall are not at all favorable. We're looking at the 3 categories that you look for wildfire danger to be completely satisfied, if you will, for the next couple of days, if not really, you could say really the whole week. Although we'll start cooling down Thursday and Friday, and temperature-wise we'll be okay. But I mean, the vegetation is one of the big problems here this summer season with this part of the wildfire season in terms of any of the wildfires we have had. But again, like you said, we haven't had any big wildfires that have really broken out because the winds have not really been that bad. And so that's a good thing, but today looks like that might be a little different, unfortunately.
Yeah, and the danger because of those winds right now is that embers can, you know, because this thing right now is actively burning in a few different places. If you get a big wind gust and that takes some of those embers to another part of the neighborhood, the fear is that another fire could break out, which is why, Jonathan, they basically have put an evacuation zone around this entire neighborhood, not only the homes that are burning right now, but in fear that those embers could catch another home on fire. Because a lot of people are watching this, they probably want to go back to their homes and to get their stuff, and you think about the heartbreaking scenes that somebody is watching their home burn on live TV right now, and multiple people are, because there are multiple homes that are burning, and you think about everything that they, you know, love and have built up over a lifetime up in flames and how devastating that is. And I'm sure there are other people that want to go back to the neighborhood, but it's really not safe right now.
It's a really bad spot to have a fire. There are a lot of homes there. This is going to be one for the firefighters, it's going to be really challenging, I think, and it's just kind of a combining of some really unfortunate conditions. I'm looking at the winds right now. The latest gusts of 20 were out of the west. And so you can think about the homes just to the east of the fire would be under the gun for the embers blowing in that direction. Of course, when these fires form, they kind of create their own little mini weather scenarios themselves because of the chaotic heat and conditions within the fire area itself. But that aside, the winds out of the west would, at 20 miles per hour, surely carry some embers potentially to other homes, which would be right there to the east of the fire.
Yeah, so if our booth maybe can indulge me in explaining what we're looking at, is the top left the live picture, and the bottom right, the bigger box, is video from earlier. So just so you know what you're looking at, the bottom right, the bigger picture, is some video from within the last hour when we first got over this fire, to give you a sense of all the different homes that are burning. And on the top left, the smaller box, is the live picture, and that's now a full picture of our live picture, where you can see this one property up in flames, and then you see other around it as well. This looks like an affluent neighborhood with some very large properties built into this hillside, some of which are now a total loss. As Laura Diaz is joining our coverage tonight as well, here with me on the desk. And Laura, you've covered so many wildfires over the years. It's just devastating when you think about the people involved in this.
It is, and we see it year after year, Alex. It's, you know, predictable, sadly. We watch as these homes are destroyed and all of people's dreams going up in smoke, literally. We've been warned, of course, because we had so much rain this year, that there was an excess amount of fuel and how highly combustible it would be. That smoke right there, that thick black smoke, certainly not anywhere near to getting this contained, right?
Right. What you want to see is a bunch of white smoke, which gives an indication that this thing is on its last legs. When you see all that black smoke, that's an indication. It looks like for some of this that they're just letting it burn. I mean, there is some, you know, because it's burned now, almost defensible space, because there's nothing left to burn on that hillside, which will make it a little easier for firefighters with their fight here. But it looks like that home right there It's tough to tell, is that the same property or the neighboring property? Because these are really massive homes, but at least that portion of this property looks really bad as we watch this home burn on live TV right now. One of many in this neighborhood in San Bernardino. So if you're just joining us, this fire started in the 3300 block of Beverly Drive. This is near Little Mountain, Vista Drive, Hillhurst Drive, some of the nearby cross streets of a fire. The evacuation center for folks is at Marshall Elementary School. So you are being urged to not go to your house if you live in this neighborhood and you're watching this, because it's just too dangerous. And look at that fire, Laura. What a picture of that firefighter with his hose or her hose, and just the extreme black smoke, huge piles of black smoke in every direction. And you think of this firefighter, the temperature right now without the fire in San Bernardino is 109. And you think about how hot it is with that fire burning, moving in your direction with winds without the fire at 20, 25 miles an hour. And as we know, Laura, the fire can often create its own weather patterns.
Exactly. And of course, we know that the conditions under which these men and women work is so very difficult. As you mentioned, just the amount of gear they carry. I did an exercise once where I was carrying 30 pounds on my back and trying to get through the bottom of a house where presumably the act was that it was supposed to be on fire. But these men and women do this day in and day out. They are some of the best trained in the entire world because of the amount of wildfires that we have here. People come and they like to train under our methods of how to attack a fire. And of course, we've learned so much over the years as we've had to deal with drought and the winds. It truly has become not only the grit on the ground, but the scientific approach to how do you put it out, how do you save lives, and how do you try to protect property.
And a lot of efforts now being made with artificial intelligence to help in those efforts as well, and cameras and satellites to get a better sense of when fires start, where they're starting, and being able to get water on them faster so that they don't just take off. So now we're looking from Skyfox. This is a heavily populated residential area in San Bernardino. These particular homes that are burning are nestled right up against the hillside there, which are frankly kind of always in the most danger when it comes to fire. When you look at the way this neighborhood is built, these homes that are burning are kind of in the worst potential place when it comes to fire danger.
And it's pretty predictable because people go for the view. They want to buttress nature because it's gorgeous, but at the same time, as soon as there's fire, you are in harm's way. It's literally at your back door, right? And we've seen this time and time again, Alex.
And part of the challenge, as we have such a bigger population and so many people living in Southern California, we keep expanding more and more up against nature to try to build housing. We've got a housing crisis, and then we end up building homes in places where they didn't build homes before, in part because of that fire danger. Jonathan Novak, as we return to you, we're looking now at a live picture at some of the rescue crews that are in the area. We haven't really seen water drops yet. I don't know if we'll start to see it. We see some water there, but it doesn't look like we're around, sort of a natural lake or something that would make it easier.
Well, you're right. It's and that was kind of ironic seeing that little pool right there. I was just looking at the conditions. The weather station that's right nearby, or close enough, it's actually reading partly cloudy skies. It began reading that. Of course, it's clear out there, but the smoke obscuring enough of the sky that the weather station is picking up on it. The conditions there, just to give you an idea of the relative humidity, which, obviously 10%, 9%, actually right near the fire, it's 9%, looking a little closer in. You have the temperatures at 109, but it's so dry out there that the heat index, or what it actually feels like if you were just to walk around outside, is 104, which is an indication of how, really dry, to get the temperature to feel like it's 104 when it's actually 109 out there.
The opposite of like an East Coast day.
Yeah, exactly. When you have the humidity in the air, the sweat on your skin, basically it can't evaporate, and when it can't evaporate, that's a cooling process. If the evaporation evaporation process. So when you have dry air out there, the sweat on your skin efficiently evaporates, and that cools your skin down, and so it feels like it's cooler than it actually is out there. So that it's an indication of how dry, in fact, the air is in that area of Southern California.
And this heat has been absolutely crushing, right?
Yeah.
It really doesn't cool off at night.
It doesn't.
So this is some new video we're just getting from the ground from our friends at onscene.tv, and you get a sense of it's our first video from the ground itself. Maybe let's listen in and give a sense of what it sounds like with those winds too. Yeah, and so that you get a sense of just, you know, the heightened experience that is for everybody there with the smoke. And we should also remind our friends that in not only that in that immediate area, but in the greater San Bernardino County area, to beware in terms of air quality right now. That black smoke is toxic, and it is not a great day. I mean, not a great day to be exercising when it's 109 outside anyways, but this is a day to be inside, shut your doors, shut your windows if you can't. Okay, now we're seeing a water drop, which is the first time we've at least seen that, which is a good sign, but hopefully that helps. But beware of the air quality, beware of the air quality for your pets or for your neighbors, other folks as well, because that's going to be a part of this story as well.
Even before the fire broke out, people had been urged to stay inside simply because of the heat. And, you know, people want to be out at summertime, but especially on a day like today with that black smoke, it's highly toxic. And anybody who has any sort of upper respiratory problems or young children or the elderly, wise to stay inside. But right now, this fire is burning pretty much unabated. We know that the fire department is on the scene right there, but these are the difficult circumstances under which we live in Southern California, with extended periods of heat. Then they're fueled by the winds, and it doesn't take much. It can be the spark of a car going by. It's just a small thing that can cause a fire, and people can be largely inconsiderate about their own personal habits and how they might cause a fire that could destroy somebody else's home and take a life.
And we have no idea at this point what started this one. I did ask the public information officer from San Bernardino County Fire. It's way too early to tell. We don't know if this was what you just mentioned. We don't know if this was arson. We don't know what led to this. We do know that once that spark happened, this fire took off real fast. I think so fast that, frankly, the fire department wasn't able to get there in time before it was just moving on that hillside. And the conditions today, everything that Jonathan mentioned in terms of the heat and the winds and the relative humidity, are kind of the worst potential scenario for a fire. I mean, not the winds that we would see for, you know, one of the really bad Santa Ana days. Right? I mean, this day, 20, 25 mile an hour. For some of those, you could have 50, 60, 70 mile an hour winds, which obviously are much harder to deal with. But in terms of the heat and in terms of relative humidity, Jonathan Novak, I mean, those numbers are about as big as it gets, right?
109, absolutely. I mean, that's it's incredible, and not just for a day. I mean, we've had already several days of that kind of heat, and it looks like, again, tomorrow we can expect the same. And then relative humidity's at 9%. We see that up in the desert. The high desert will get 9%, 8%, 5%. But to see that in San Bernardino, it's tough to get 9% relative humidity. Even in the Inland Empire, that's quite a thing to have, unfortunately, and it means the temperatures have to be really, really hot. And so we're abnormally hot right now. This whole summer has been this way. I think it's going to keep going like this, unfortunately, probably, for the next month or so. We'll be seeing this pattern to a good degree. And then the winds are really the exacerbating factor. I mean, we've been really lucky that the winds have not kicked up all that much on these hot days. But today, as I mentioned earlier, the winds right before the fire started had kicked up in San Bernardino. Up until about 1 p.m., 1:30, they were about 6 miles per hour. And then right at 1:30, they started gusting at 20, 25 miles per hour. And that's what they're currently looking at right now. So they have to, unfortunately, the firefighters have to contend with what's a really bad element. I mean, if you have heat, okay. But if you have the winds, now you've got a big challenge on your hands because the fire can spread rapidly.
So you're looking right now at this home in San Bernardino, one of multiple homes that are burning right now by a wind-driven fire where it's 109 degrees. This whole neighborhood being urged to evacuate right now, told to go to the nearby elementary school. And it is a really sad situation for folks that are watching their homes burn on live TV right now. And Laura Diaz, this, I guess, is where we're getting the water from. I mean, it looks like a kid's pool that you would have for a splish splash on a hot day, but I guess it's doing its job slowly.
Doing very big boy work this afternoon, right? This is important stuff as we watch this chopper getting ready to make a drop. And, you know, if you're the person who lives out here and all of your life and dreams are in a home, you can only sit here and feel so helpless. But as we've been reporting, authorities are telling people that they have to evacuate. It's for their own safety. They're on the scene. They are the experts at this, some of the best in the whole world. And they're working right now to try to contain this fire in San Bernardino. People are being urged to stay out of these neighborhoods. If you're home, to evacuate. And this is a scene that we've seen, unfortunately, play over and over again in Southern California. And Jonathan, I know that there was talk of maybe a break in the conditions by, I thought, Thursday. Is that still the forecast? Yeah,
the break will be, you're right, the timing, that's when it should happen, but the break that we're getting is essentially just going back to average, which it's summertime, so I mean the temperatures are hot when they're average, and so yeah, we'll start cooling down. In fact, by Wednesday the numbers will start coming down. We'll only be a few degrees above average, but by Thursday they should be pretty seasonable. Looking past Thursday and Friday, the numbers start coming up again though for the weekend, and we'll be back in another heat wave, it looks like, at that point.
Yeah, so this really is sort of a remarkable site, that pool that they're using as sort of an improvisational area, because oftentimes we will see one of these that is near a lake or near some sort of body of water where the firefighters are able to go pick up some of that water, and it's clear that there isn't anything that nearby. So this helicopter is using that pool being filled up by firefighters as a way to try to get water on this from the air. Obviously those water drops can be a lot more effective than some of the hoses on the ground, and get a lot more water on it a lot faster. And so that's what's going on right now. I mean, we see this home actively burning. We saw not too long ago a car that had been basically incinerated as well. And Laura, sometimes when we report from these neighborhoods, you see that one home is completely fine, and then a few feet away, their neighbor's home is completely destroyed. And it's kind of luck of the draw in some cases on which homes survive and which ones don't. And you know, because some of the homes in the neighborhood look okay, but yet some are clearly, like this one, looks to be a total loss.
It is really astonishing when you're out there in the field, and I know both you and I have done this often, where the fire will actually hopscotch. So you'll see one home burn to the ground, and as you pointed out, the one next door is completely intact. And I've had people tell me over and over again, I don't know why I was spared. I have no idea. Usually they express a lot of empathy for their neighbor, but it can be that random. Sometimes they take a protective stance, and maybe they've done a lot to clear the area around their property, but sometimes it is random.
So there was just another water drop on those active flames from that helicopter, which is filling up in that nearby pool, which, you know, it is helping with this, this firefight right now. So I'm guessing that you've got a situation here where those are two different homes, although it's tough to tell. Some of these homes may have guest houses or may have extensions to them as well. These are really big big properties that we're talking about that are built into this hillside.
And a lot of people move out to this area of Southern California. They want to be able to get more home for their dollar. This is a huge bedroom community. Sometimes people live in San Bernardino and commute all the way into Los Angeles, which you can tell if you're ever on the freeways at those times of the day. But, you know, I'm sure that this is someone's dream home. And now we're watching as it looks, you know, to my untrained eye, to be a true loss. And the whole goal at this hour is to try to protect the other homes in the area so it doesn't spread. Now, when it pans down, it looks like there are a great number of homes in pretty close proximity.
Yeah.
But if you go up that hill, that looks to be a little more wilderness to me. What do you think, Alex?
Well, at the top of the hill is another community, looks like another suburban community that's built and pretty developed as well. So that it looks like the hillside is the break between these two different affluent neighborhoods. And that hillside is what's burned up. The community at the top of the hill so far has not burned. They've been able to protect that community so far, and there are firefighters actively there trying to keep it that way. But we see these firefighters, looks like they may be on the roof, and you see all the retardant that's left behind, and they're doing their best to try to, at this point, you know, minimize the damage. There are, when they're doing this, you try to protect what you can, and some things you just have to kind of let it burn. And the reason, you know, it's not like this particular structure is coming back. The reason to be aggressive in trying to stop it right now is to stop it from having a bunch of embers that could go to nearby homes and potentially burn them as well. So from what we've seen from Skyfox, see there, Laura, you get the sense of that neighborhood up above. That home, which looks like they did a pretty good job with the defensible space, that may have helped them. They don't have a bunch of plants right there. That's kind of what you're supposed to do to create some clearance there. And then as we go up this hill, you see more of these residential homes. And then up there is, you know, a more sort of traditional suburban community with looks like more tract homes there as well. And that road seems to be a natural fire break, but they've really done a great job there of protecting all of those homes. We see the active firefighter there trying to keep those homes. It looks like for now those are not in imminent danger, but clearly this one neighborhood is, and they're trying to limit as much damage as they can, but it's just awful to think what this must be like for these people. The good news, though, is it is still just property at the end of the day, and you know, not all things can be replaced, but your life can certainly not be replaced. And as far as we know, there are no reports of any injuries so far, and as far as we know, everybody was able to get out of these homes in time before they started to burn and you know, get out with their lives, which is the important thing.
And you mentioned the defensible space, which is so important. And we've seen the various counties where they have now started to really be quite strict about people. You can get fined if you don't have a clearance around your home. And so all of that pays off in an instance like this. Now, Joab Perez, who is out of our bureau out in this area, is joining us live right now. Joab, can you hear us?
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay,
and Joab is one of our photographers based in the Inland Empire. We're looking on the right-hand side of your screen. The bigger picture is Joab's live picture. Joab is behind the camera taking that shot right now. Talk to us about what you see.
Yes, we got one home here that is completely on fire, and you'll have a chopper come by every now and then and dropping some water. Here's the water drop coming by right now, actually, and it looks like they're trying to get this house. They're just trying to get it under control here. But as I was driving up here, this is around the area of, I believe, Circle and Vista, I believe. And as I was driving here, I'll show you just a line of people coming, neighbors, I presume, in this area that were probably getting off home from work, and this is what they came to, is possibly several properties on fire. So there was a big line of cars all coming in. Things are safe.
Sounds like Joab's signal is cutting in and out. You can imagine, but you do get a good sense there from the ground of that one home there that's burning and the firefight. It sounded like he was telling us that there's a bunch of neighbors in the community that are maybe standing by trying to figure out what's going on.
You can actually see them, Alex. They were lined up there on the street, and you can imagine how shocking it is. You come home from work or you get a call from your neighbor, and, hey, you know, your neighborhood's on fire. That's a terrifying call to get. But people who live in this area, I'm sure there were probably more home than usual. This is vacation season. People are home maybe doing just day trips, or the worst case scenario is you're out of the city, you're out of the country, and you're getting this news and you're way far away.
Yeah, and you're watching it on a live stream from somewhere else. So this is officially called the Edge Hill Fire, presumably because it started near Edge Hill. This is the Shandon Hills neighborhood of San Bernardino, where the most imminent firefight is underway. And we are looking at a picture from the ground on the right, and on the left is our picture from Skyfox, where you get a sense of this fire that has burned multiple homes already and continues to burn them right now.
I know that you spoke to the fire department before I sat down. Were they giving you any sense of total numbers, or was it too early to tell?
Too early to tell. In terms of the only thing they knew was 0% containment at that point.
Yeah.
So, you know, this whole thing has happened real fast. They're on the ground there trying to get an assessment of what's happening. Obviously, we're still in the urgent firefight mode. You know, later in the night there will be more of the mop-up and the investigation. Right now, as homes are actively burning, the effort is to try to stop this thing as much as possible, limit the damage. And also the real effort is to, frankly, to keep people out of this neighborhood for their own protection, and also for the protection of the firefighters who need the roads to be able to move around with their gear and don't want to get stuck behind people that maybe don't know where they're going to. And so they're trying to keep people out, and they've established a perimeter to try to, you know, protect this neighborhood with the evacuation center at the elementary school nearby.
Well, we know that the wind has been a factor, and you can watch it as you're looking at this live picture with us. You can see the trees swaying in the wind there. We know the fire department is on the scene. A little bit of gray smoke there, which I think is the first time I've seen that since I sat down. It's been really black up until this point. There are, you know, people on the ground fighting this fire as well as from the air, but the whole point is to try to contain it so it doesn't spread. Some of these homes are pretty close together. We are watching as we see the tile roofs, which is really a bonus. We know from years past, before, when we had the highly combustible materials of which homes in California were made, they were beautiful, but they were like a stick of dynamite. They just went up in a flash. So we have learned lessons, and we've had lots of time to learn lessons, Alex, as we've watched fire after fire burn in Southern California, everywhere from the IE to Malibu. It's really been constantly having to update how we look at these fires, what we can do to defend our homes, and what is the latest information to try to battle them. Right.
We've learned so much about fires and also learned so much about earthquakes over the years as well. And we continue to evolve on both those fronts to be better at dealing with them. But both fires and earthquakes are part of the reality of living in Southern California, and both are pretty hard to imagine ever stopping. It's just a matter of how do you best deal with them. So we are, you know, looking at this, and we are approaching the top of the hour, in which case our audience will also join us from Fox 11 Plus, Channel 13 will join our coverage as well as those that are watching on our Fox local app, as we await our reporter on the ground to get there and get a better sense of what's happening there. So this is again in Shandon Hills, and we are going to begin our coverage right now, the Fox 11 News at 5 o'clock. It is now 5 o'clock.